I'm saying that shit too, nigga. Don't be hating.
Nice.
I don't even know if I'm gonna explain my judgment, but I might. Shit, go ahead.
Oh my god, bro. Kuro's here, bro. Oh my
Bro, this
god.
nigga is not. Bro, I nigga's right.
Go ahead, bro.
Nigga, what?
All right. Yeah, just say your shit, Zeni.
Alright, so what's your position, Calm? Yeah, and my
100%
position is
segregation, bro.
I'm pro-life. I think aborting the fetus, except for some specific circumstances, is immoral.
Okay, so what circumstances?
Hello?
Like just like per circumstance instead of pro life?
Yeah, so rape. Yeah, so rape, and if like the mother's life is in danger, I think those are the two exceptions where you could. Nick is a fat gamer, but yeah, those are the two exceptions which I think you can abort the fetus and it would be okay. But other like other situations, I don't think it's okay to abort the fetus.
Okay, what's your reasoning for like those situations and like what's the distinction?
What's the distinction between what specifically? And the
So as
reasoning
in,
is just I have. Let me get it real quick. So it's a pretty simple syllogism. Right? Premise one. Actually, what do you want me to say? Just in general.
you can just put it in scans.
It already sent us. So premise one, if you value me at T1, then you value me at T0. You value me at T1, therefore you value me at T0. T1 is just the current moment. T0 represents the past, like development, conception, zygote, stuff like that. So if you value me right now, you value me at T0. You value me right now, therefore you value me at T0. It's just mode exponents.
Okay, so you're just doing like animalism?
The reason why you'd value it's just using biological continuity. The continuity
All right.
of identity. So
All right, so you're
yeah,
saying
so
that
basically it's just
I think there's a
implying
big ass delay.
same
I'm leaving and
individual.
rejoin.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
But this nigga Rafael said bitch. Oh, I'm a lord. But yeah, you said what, bro? Wait, can you hear the people in
Yeah, I
the
said go
background, by
ahead.
the way? Are they like pretty loud?
No.
You can't. All right. Yeah. So that's just the argument. If you're in justification as to why, as to why you'd have to value me at tier zero at the same time, is because well, I'm numerically the same individual at both T0 and T1. There's no change in who I am. There's only change in my development, right? So if a moral worth is based on who I am as a human being and not abilities I have at the moment, like this and stuff, then the same moral value should apply at both T0 and T1. Because
So
to say that, like, if you value me right now, but wouldn't value me back then is just incoherent since it just implies that I didn't matter when you were the same. Like, it doesn't matter if I was the same being then till I was right now.
why do you think that
And
like
since everyone
development doesn't
obviously
change
has
who you are
moral
as an
value,
individual?
right? I don't think you disagree with that, right? It follows logically from the first two, right? That you'd have to value me at your zero.
Yeah, so why do you think sorry, why do you think you don't change as an individual if you've developed?
Yeah, yeah, so identity is different from development. So look, if X has value and X has persisted over time without becoming a different being, then X had value all along. And what I
What's your
mean by
definition of
that is
identity?
like if I don't be if the fetus hasn't become a different person and the person that the fetus has developed from had value, then the fetus had value all along.
Yeah, you're repeating yourself, you're not explaining. Um so yeah, you're basically begging the question. I'm asking you why you think this individual doesn't become a different person after developing, and you're just saying because they're developing, they're still the same person. I'm asking you why you think this development doesn't change who they are. Also, if you could give your definition of identity. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, my fault. My little brother came in. He wanted the charger. So yeah, repeat what you said. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I said you're begging the question. I asked you why you don't think
Repeat.
why
Repeat
you
what you said.
think.
You said what?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
saying that why am I the same entity? Like
Yeah, I'm
just because
asking
I
why are you the
developed by
same
that not mean I
entity if
change?
you're
Yeah, because
developing?
look, there's something called biological continuity. So it just says that from fertilization onward, the human embryo is a distinct whole or distinct living whole human organism. Basically, there's no point at which one entity ends. Like there's no point at which the fetus ends, and then the person comes. It's just that the fetus continues and then develops into a human. So just as a toddler, just as a toddler doesn't become a new person when they grow up, a fetus doesn't become a different person when they become an infant.
So
You can see the
what's your
same line
definition?
of
What's your
reasoning
definition of
just
identity?
apply here. I mean, I don't see why that's relevant right now.
I think it's directly relevant if you're using
Can
the
you just go ahead and
terminology and
type?
your definition of it.
No, I just said biological continue. I didn't bring up identity.
Yeah, yeah, but I asked you that
All I
multiple
said
times
was
earlier. Hold on, you've also used the word entity. I'm asking for what your definitions are for these terms, or individual. All three terms you've used multiple
we could
times.
just we could just use the colloquial one. So you wanted it? The definition for what?
You want to use the colloquial definition?
Yeah, it's like the normal
Okay,
definition that everyone uses.
and what do you think that
You
is?
said the first one was entity. Entity is just defined as a thing with distinct and independent existence, and identity definition is just defined as the fact of being who or what a person is.
Okay, so say like under your definitions, right? Like there would be like some distinction. So you would say like if there was distinction, they would be a different entity, correct?
Yeah, I'm basically saying that if this entity doesn't end, if there's no point in which this entity end and just continues developing, then it'd be the same distinct living whole human organism. And I, gave analogical reasoning
I'm not talking about
using the
beginning
feet
or
and not the
ending.
fetus, but the toddler example.
I'm talking about your definition of entity, right? So you're just to be clear,
You gave it.
under your definition of entity, are you saying that if something changes distinctly, that it is now a new entity?
I mean, like if no, I'm not saying if it changes distinctly, it's not the same entity. No, I'm not saying that.
So why would this not contradict your definition?
Wait, no, it doesn't because there's no point in which the fetus goes from a thing with distinct and independent existence to just not
I'm not
existing
talking about
anymore.
the
And
fetus.
the toddler comes out of.
I'm talking about your usage of the word entity, right? You gave a definition of it, and then I'm questioning your definition.
You're questioning what? You're questioning my definition. I mean, I don't
I'm
understand
sorry,
what
sorry,
you
sorry. I'm questioning the
definitions.
way you're. Hold. Sorry. Let me backtrack real quick. I'm questioning the way your definition would apply to what you're saying, right? So if you're saying that an entity is something with like a distinct like characteristics, right? And then that would obviously imply that if those characteristics were to change and it would become distinct from what it once was, that it would become a new entity. I'm
No,
asking
because
why you would disagree
development.
with that.
No, development is a thing. When something develops, it doesn't change from one, like it doesn't change from one distinct entity to a whole new different one. Just like how a toddler doesn't change from its being, from going from a toddler to a like actual person. It's just the same line of reasoning.
So,
Because
yeah,
a
but I'm saying
toddler
right.
like has distinct.
If you can say numerically, hold on, you can say numerically, right? We have like one equals one, and like lay down the line, one still equals one. That doesn't mean that what originally had the value of one is now what currently holds it, right? So what I'm saying is, why would it stay as the same entity? Why would it not just be something else has replaced it, and now there's a new
Yeah,
entity?
look,
You
you're
can say
retarded.
there's no
Look,
big.
I gave
Hold on.
multiple
You
different.
can say there's
Oh my
no.
lord.
Yeah. You can say like, oh, I don't see any place for like the fetus to begin or end, but I'm asking why that would be the case. If it's changing distinctly, then based off your definition of entity, then it would be a new entity, and there would be like a beginning and end.
Look, oh my lord. Look, I already gave multiple different reasons as to why, if you value me at T1, you value me at T0. I gave biological continuity. I explained how every person has their own
I'm putting those things into
and
question.
look. And for the fetus shit, I literally just gave analogical reasons. I said that you wouldn't say a toddler became a new person when they grew up, because obviously the person and the toddler have distinct properties, right? And just like that, you want to say the fetus became, or the fetus and the infant became a new person because they have distinct properties. And again, right?
Yeah, I'm asking why.
You said why? Like this is just like a biological fact, I guess. Like there's no point in which the toddler and then the like a child comes out from the toddler that has distinct properties. It's just the same biological continuity that a child has and that adult
You're
has.
going circular.
Look, there's also the numerical identity. So numerical identity just means
I already addressed that.
you address. I haven't even brought. How are you addressing something that hasn't been brought up?
Yeah, I'm a. What do you mean? Because I did. Like, you don't have to bring it up for me to address it. I don't know what the fuck you mean by that. But to be clear, right? What I'm doing is I'm addressing what you're saying or what I believe you're going to say or what you could say, and I'm putting it into question. You can't answer like, oh, when I ask you why something is the case, and then you proceed to repeat what you already said. You're not answering my question. You're just restating it. You're basically begging the question. I'm asking you why these things would be the
Okay,
case.
why would
You can't just say, oh,
okay,
it's a
look.
biological fact.
All right, look, why would what be the case? So, just so there's no confusion, why would what be the case? Why would the fetus become the same person? Why would the fetus be the same person as the adult? And why would the toddler be the same person as the adult?
So to be clear, right? So when you gave your definition of entity, you said something with distinct characteristics or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
along
say
those lines, right? So
that.
I'm saying if these characteristics were to change distinctly, why would this not then become a new person?
Yeah, so look, here's just an analogy, right, to help you understand why. So look, imagine you at 5 years old, right? You are 5 years old, and then you are 15 years old, and then you are 50 years old. Obviously, you change a lot, duh. But you don't become a different person at each stage. It's still you. You're still the same person
Why?
with just continuous identity. So if you didn't become a new
I'm
person
asking you why.
at the age of 15, what? This is like I literally just gave an okay. Um, it's just like I guess an analogy. I mean, I don't see why the fuck anyone would disagree with this.
I
Niggas,
know
just
what an
wait. Do you
analogy
think?
is.
Wait, do you think that you
I'm
become
not
a new person
disagreeing. I'm
every
putting it
time
into
you age?
question. What?
Do you think you become a different being every time you turn a new age?
I don't know why you're burden shifting. Answer my question without giving some dumb
No,
fuck analogy that doesn't
I
actually answer
literally
it.
you just said why, and then I'm giving like counter because it's very counterintuitive. Nobody intuitively no my fault, intuitively speaking, nobody thinks that you become a different person when you reach the age of 50 as compared to you at the age of 15. It's just a continuous entity with different development. This is like basic shit. It's
Why
very
would this
intuitive,
intuitively be the
and for
case?
you to come out and say why, I mean, it's very intuitive to believe in the opposite
Why?
because there's
You're going
no
circular
reason.
again. Stop begging the
I
fucking
just
question.
explained
I'm
it, oh
asking you
my
a
lord. Is
question
that
and you're
so?
just repeating yourself. Okay, the way you explained it was by giving an analogy to what I was putting into question. You're not actually explaining anything. Explain why this would be the case.
I literally just did, bro. Look, do you believe
No, you
that you
didn't.
become a new entity when you reach the age of
You're
50?
burden shifting.
How is this a burden shift?
You're
Burden
burden
shift.
shifting.
No, do you know what burden shift is?
Yeah, the burden was on you to
No,
explain
you know
why
what a
this would
burden
be the case. And instead of giving me, hold on, I'm already talking. Instead of answering why this would be a case, you gave an analogy that didn't actually address what I was saying or explain why. And now you're asking me another question as if the burden was no longer on you. The burden is currently on you. Answer my question.
no. No, look, a burden shift is when you say, well, why is X the case? And then someone says, well, why not X? I'm not saying, well, why not X? I'm asking a completely different question that's relevant to the conversation so we can move on. Because if you're
Do
saying
you
that,
think a
why
burden
don't you
shift has to be within the exact same question?
No, it's not what? That's not what I'm saying. A burden shift, by definition,
So
is when
let me
someone
give you an
says
example.
why X, why X, why not X. That's just
Let
an
me give you an
example.
example.
That's an
So
example of burden.
hold on. So if I were to ask you, right, why is that apple red? And instead of answering my question, you were like, okay, well, why would the thing the apple is on be there? Instead of answering my question, you're just shifting the burden to dodge the question. Answer my
That's not.
question.
That's not a burden shift. Look, a burden shift is making a claim
Okay, well,
that needs to be
even if you
stated.
think that, by my
It's
definition, it would be.
demanding.
Yeah, I
Look,
don't care. You
it's given
shifted the
by.
burden. So answer my question.
I'm not okay. Look, it's not a shift of the burden because once you answer this question that I gave, then we can move on to my burden. because nobody would ever believe that you become a wholly different person once you reach a different age. You
Okay,
just
I'm asking you to prove that, and instead of proving it, you just asked me a question regarding what was already on burden
because
for you.
because
Okay,
not
simply answer my question.
because the thing that you're or not the thing that you're, but the thing you're questioning is very intuitive. Like I literally just explained that we already have prima
I
facie.
asked you why it was
Yeah,
intuitive, and
yeah,
then you just
yeah. We
asked
have
me a
prima
question
facie.
back.
Yeah,
What are we
it's
talking
okay.
about?
Look, it's prima facie, bro. Like what? It's prima facie. It's prima facie. In the
Okay,
first
why?
glance, look.
Why?
Yeah, so in the first glance, look, you don't say that you become a new person every time. Like it's just based off of my seemings.
Okay, again, you just restated things without actually explaining why this would be prima facie.
Yeah. Do you know what prima facie is? Can you define prima facie for me?
I'm not obligated to give you a definition for a word you used,
I'm asking you. Do you know what prima facie is? I'm asking you. Do you know what it is?
and I already answered that.
All
Don't you
right.
remember the answer I
Look,
just gave you 10
can you
seconds ago?
define prima facie for me real quick?
I told you I have no obligation to
Yeah.
do so unless
Why?
you give me
Why?
a
Why don't
reason
you have an obligation?
that
Yeah.
I can
Why?
grab.
Why don't you have an obligation to do this thing?
I never took a stance on that.
You never
Holy
took it.
shit! I
Look.
put it
Look.
into
Look.
question.
Look. I asked you. Do you know what prima facie is? You then said yes. Okay. Can you define prima facie for me real quick?
Again, why do I
Because
have
now,
any obligation to do
yeah,
so?
look, okay, look, yeah, okay. So then this seems very fuck. I don't even remember the word is, but look, this is very bad looks on you because the thing that you're saying is that what you're burden shifting because I asked you a question, right? And it just needs to be the case that now you're the one burden shifting. So look, can you go ahead and define prima
Do you
facie
think
for me? Prima
hypocrisy? Do
facie.
you think hypocrisy is fallacious?
I mean, I don't see, but it's very bad faith.
You
It's a
think
very
it's
bad
bad
faith thing to
faith?
do.
Okay, so prove. Okay, okay,
Yes.
okay. Hold on. Okay, one, why would it be bad faith? Two, why would it be the case that being appearing to be bad faith by like one person who I'm talking to inherently means that I'm like losing a debate or would have
I'm
any
not.
indication of that?
Look, that's retarded because I never claimed that you're losing the debate because you're being bad faith. I'm saying that this looks very weird because you claim that I'm burden shifting when I ask you a question, and then now when I'm asking you the question, you're obviously asking me a question in return about why do I have to do this thing. That's just a burden shift.
Hold on,
And
your
you
inability,
got to
your
just
inability.
define.
Hold on, hold
You
on,
got to
hold
just
on, hold on. I'm gonna address what you just said. I'm not. Hold on. I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let you say multiple things at once, right? So you not being able to address something accurately or respond to it in the correct way, and then me doing so does not mean I'm hypocritical. It would just be a skill issue on your part.
Yeah. What? Okay, look, I'm asking, can you define prima facie for me? You said, why do I have to? That's obviously a burden shift under what you just said 5 minutes ago.
No, this would be a clarifying question. What you asked me was not related to the question I asked you.
Yeah, okay, look. All right, so then, obviously you just claimed that you know what prima facie is. So now I want to know if you know, like, what actually prima facie is.
Well, I told you. Okay, as already stated, right? The word you're using, why would I have to give like the definition for it? Then we'd obviously be
All
going
right,
by
all
your
right.
definition.
Okay, look. All right. I'll just explain why you don't become a different person at every age. Because, look, a change in property isn't a change in identity. Because just because you have.
Why? Holy shit.
Yeah, okay. Look, I'll just explain. You change constantly every day, but because there's a change in characteristics doesn't mean that you're a change in who you are. Just like a caterpillar, obviously becomes a butterfly, right? Just because you are the same person throughout every stage of your life. So just because, just like a just like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly is the same organism in two forms, right? You are the same person through every stage of your life. Yeah. That's why you don't become a different person every time you reach the age of 50. All right, now we can conclude.
So you think so? Just so I'm clear, right? So you're saying that because people change constantly, that would mean that when you change, you don't become a different person.
I'm not gonna lie. Because of that last shit that you just did, I'm not gonna clarify this for you. I don't want to clarify for you, so we can just conclude. If you didn't get the argument,
Well, okay, I'm not agreeing to conclude. So if you want to just like leave the call and concede, that's all you. So if you're not going to answer me, then I'm just going to assume that's like what you
yeah, if
said.
you're gonna assume it, then how do you know if you're
Anyway,
actually talking the argument? But go ahead.
yeah, it wouldn't matter, right? Because if if we've already set the precedent multiple times, like when you asked me to repeat myself, that we should then like go on to repeat for the other person, then that would mean that the definition I've given, like just logically, or sorry, the explanation I've given for what you said would just be apt. Otherwise, I would just consider it to be like heavily disingenuous, and then like
Wait.
typical
Just
on what you
to
said. And
you
you were claiming,
think
oh, I'm
that you
not
are
done.
not
I'm
being
not done.
disingenuous. Wait, shut
When
the fuck up. Look,
you were
you think that
claiming,
you are not
hold
being
on,
disingenuous
dumbass. I'm
before
already
when you
talking.
like
I'm already
but
talking.
kept
I'm not
asking me,
listening because I
bro,
was
why
already
do I
talking.
know this?
Yeah, the
Why is
definition.
that?
Hold on,
But
hold
why
on,
don't you
hold
know
on.
difference
You
at the age
claimed
of 50? Look, I
earlier.
don't give a
You
fuck. Look,
claimed.
I
I'm
don't
not
care. I
done.
don't care.
I'm not
You were
done.
being disingenuous at the
Yeah, I'm not going.
trying to
Yeah, I
start
don't
to
care.
head
I'm
and
just gonna
wrap.
keep
Look,
talking
I'm
while
not
you
gonna
keep
ask you a
trying to
clarifying
interrupt me.
question. We can conclude. We can conclude. We can conclude. I don't care
Okay,
ask anything
you
else.
cannot answer my question, but I'm not going to conclude anyway. So oh, actually, regarding that, until it's been 45 minutes, I have no obligation to end it just because you want to conclude. Anyway, under
Yeah,
like
I
what
don't.
you've
I don't.
already said, right?
Look. Attack
Hypocrisy
the
would make
argument
you
I
like
just gave.
disingenuous.
Attack
I
the
never
argument I
claimed
gave.
to be disingenuous, but
I
because you
just
believe this to
attack
be
the
the
argument
case,
I gave.
you're
Attack the
literally
argument I
just
gave.
stating
Attack
that
the
you
argument
believe
I gave.
you are being
Attack the
disingenuous in this
argument
very
I
moment.
gave. Look,
Anyway,
the argument.
regardless of what, hold on, I'm again,
Go ahead and
regardless
attack
of
the
like
argument
what
you
you
gave.
would have to say,
Go ahead and attack.
I'm going to continue talking. You can keep interrupting me if you want.
Yeah,
I'm just
look,
going to
go ahead and
continue.
attack the
Um,
argument I just
so
gave. That's
so
what I'm asking.
what you said simply like didn't respond to what I've already repeated multiple times, which is that if an entity has is something like with distinct characteristics, right? Then if these characteristics distinctly change, why would it become a new entity? And then you continued to give the same explanation that you've already given multiple times that
Just
doesn't
because
actually
there's a
address it
difference in your
correctly.
accidental doesn't mean there's a difference in your essential. So you just explain it like that.
Elaborate.
Yeah, I'm not gonna elaborate. I don't care to elaborate. If you don't know what
You don't
accidentals,
care to
if you don't know
elaborate.
what
No,
accidentals
no,
are,
no, no, no. So
if you don't know what accidental
again,
essentials are, all
words can
you
have like,
that's silly shit part.
holy shit. I let you
I don't
speak.
care if you let me speak. I'm gonna
Yeah.
interrupt
So
you. Like, what the fuck? I don't care.
okay, I will just serve on you.
We
You
have the
fuck.
same amount of parameters and plus there's a permanent beast if you do. So go ahead. Yeah,
Any
yeah,
fucking
look,
way.
yeah, see how disingenuous I'm being? Yeah, it
Okay.
seems to be that you were doing this just a minute ago and you were just fine, and now I'm doing the same
Yeah.
thing, right?
Again. I'm saying what I said. What
Yeah,
I
I don't care
said
for
was
what you
that
said. Look,
if you
attack the
believe
argument I just gave.
this,
Just because there's a difference
yeah.
in the
Okay. Don't
accidentals
care.
doesn't mean there's a
I don't
difference in the
care. I'm not
essentials.
addressing
Attack the
you. I'm not
argument.
addressing you.
Attack the
I'm not
argument.
addressing you. I'm
Attack the
addressing what was
argument.
said.
Okay, you're not addressing
Anyway.
me. I'm the one that made the statement,
Anyway.
retard. Like, you sound fucking stupid. Look, attack the
Anyway.
argument I just gave.
Anyway. You
Attack
can
the argument
continue
I gave.
yapping if you would
There's
like. I don't
no
give a fuck.
okay. Look, just because there's a difference in your accidentals doesn't mean there's a difference in your essentials. So go ahead and attack the argument you gave. If you don't know what
Again,
accidentals
you're
are, if
repeating
you don't know what
yourself.
essentials are,
Yeah,
I think it's foolish on your part. You should learn what these
I am
things are.
attacking
I don't care.
anyway, as already stated, right? Words have like different
I
meanings,
don't
and
care
you
if
like
words have
already agreed
meanings
to
or
this, which is
not.
why
Look,
you
I
gave
don't care if
holy
words have
shit,
answer
shut the
the
fuck
argument.
up. This would mean
Attack
that
the argument.
whatever your definition of
Attack
these words
the
are,
argument.
if you don't
Attack
play
the argument.
if you
Attack
don't
it.
care, holy fuck, I am
All right, go
attacking
ahead
you.
and attack
If you
it.
don't care to
Yeah, all right. So
clarify,
are you attacking it?
holy shit, if you
It
don't
doesn't seem to be an attack on the argument. Look, I'll restate it again for the judge to hear.
yeah, I mean, it's
Look,
probably because you're interrupting me and
because
not
you
hearing
don't
what I'm
become a
saying.
different person, or the reason why you don't become a different person at the age of 50 is because just because there's a change in your accidentals, right? Your accidental properties doesn't mean there's a change in your essential properties. The essential properties is making what you are, you, right? So what your essentials are makes you you, but what your accidentals are doesn't make you
And
you.
what do you think these
Yeah, I
essentials
don't care.
are?
I'm not gonna answer what the essentials are. But the essentials for every human being.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a question that's left up to most people and their interpretations, right? I'm not gonna give it to you because I don't want to.
Again, if there's multiple interpretations of what a word means, and then you don't care to clarify your terms, this would just mean
Yeah,
that the
I'm
way I
being
interpret it
disingenuous,
would be
right?
like
Look,
correct.
because you were being disingenuous just a minute ago, so I'll explain it again.
Yeah.
Just
So you can
because there's a
claim.
difference in
Hold
your
on.
essentials
So
doesn't mean there's a difference in your
when
essentials.
you
Do you want to
claim,
conclude? All right, why
no, are
don't you
you
want to
done?
conclude?
Because I
Because
don't. I
wait,
have no
why?
obligation to
Yeah,
explain why.
that just seems that just seems to be circular. Why
I'm
don't
not
you want to
done.
conclude?
I'm not
Yeah, I don't
done.
care if
I'm
you're
not
not done.
done
Why don't you want to
addressing
conclude?
what
There's
you
nothing
said.
else to talk.
Okay, you
Yeah,
asked me
why?
why.
Why?
You
Yeah,
asked why, and I
why?
just
Yeah,
answered.
why?
What do you
Can
mean
you
you
go ahead
don't
and
care?
tell me
Double
why?
contradiction. I already told you why, and you said you
Yeah,
didn't care,
okay.
so I
So
have no
can
obligation to repeat it.
can you
Anyway,
why don't you want to conclude? Just
you
because you
already
say why
claimed.
don't you want to conclude?
Holy
Why
shit!
not? That's obviously circular. So can you go ahead and tell me why don't you want to conclude?
I didn't say why
Yeah, I
not.
don't care if you
I
didn't say
told
why
you why, and
not.
you said you
I'll say
don't
you said
care.
that you didn't say why not. So look, do you want to conclude?
What?
Why don't you want
No.
to conclude?
I already told you why
Yeah,
you say
I
you
don't
don't
care
care.
if you told me or not. So look, there just seems to be nothing else that you want to
What?
talk about.
You're contradicting
Yeah, I
yourself.
don't care.
There is
Myself,
plenty to
I
talk
get.
about still.
Look,
Anyway,
there seems to be
if
nothing
you
else
do
that we're
you want to
talking
conclude?
about. You're not like giving.
Do you want to
Yeah, I want to
conclude?
conclude.
Okay, so you're done talking?
No, I'm not done talking. Just because I want to conclude doesn't mean I'm done talking.
Are you done making points outside of your conclusion? Have you said everything you have to
I
say?
said everything I want to say, but I'm not. I'm gonna keep talking because I don't want you to say everything you want to say.
Okay, so just to be clear, you're saying that you're going to continue talking even though you have no actual
I don't
substance.
care if you interpret my sentence like that. I just don't want you to get your words out because you're being
You didn't answer my
you're
question.
being very disingenuous when you're questioning the fucking analogy, asking why don't you become a different person at the age of 50?
Again, you can claim that's disingenuous. I've already stated
I
my
don't care
point of
if
view,
you
but you also called yourself disingenuous. Yeah, anyway, by you saying
look.
you
Can
are
you attack the argument I
disingenuous,
gave?
that means like you're
Look, can
admitting
you
you
attack the
are.
argument I gave?
I would if you stopped interrupting me.
Okay, go ahead and attack the
Anyway,
argument.
yeah, so I wouldn't be disingenuous, but you're admitting you are.
Okay, attack.
Yeah, so to attack the argument, as
Wait,
already
you know what my
stated,
argument
these
is?
words can
Okay,
have
can
like
you like
different
restate my
interpretations.
argument for me?
You. Yeah. It's called a fucking basis before
Yeah,
I
look.
continue. Shut the
Yeah,
fuck
so
up.
can you restate my
Anyway,
argument for me real quick?
holy shit.
Can you restate my argument for me real quick?
Yeah, I have no need to do that.
Yeah, I just
Anyway,
want to know if
as
you know the
already stated,
argument.
these
Look, the
essentials and
argument is
accidentals.
again, just to be clear, the
Holy
argument
fuck.
for infinity and color.
Yeah, I've
Just
heard your
because
argument because you
there's a
repeated it
difference
four
in
fucking
your
times. We don't need your.
accidental doesn't mean there's a difference in essentials. Once your accidentals change, there's no change in your essentials, right? So look, Tom, attack that real quick.
I've heard you multiple times. I'm trying to
Okay,
attack it.
attack
You
it.
keep interrupting me.
No,
If you don't let me get it out, I
you're
don't know how you
attacking
want
the
me to
argument.
attack it. Anyway, so as already stated, since these words would have like alternate interpretations, like you said this yourself, I already like said it too. This would mean that like any interpretation I would give, since you're refusing to define your terms, would just be correct, right? So
Wait,
why
how
would
does
it
that
not be the
follow? How
case
does
that
that
I can
follow?
just
How does that
interpret
follow?
these
How does that
things?
follow? How does that follow? Just because I didn't tell you the
I already
definition of the words
explained.
I'm using, how does that mean that now you can interpret the words anyway and attack them? Because I'm using the colloquial definition of accidentals and essentials here. So you can go ahead and attack under that basis.
Okay, again, because these words like colloquial would also have different definitions. Depends what your definition of colloquial
Do
is.
you know what
Like, what are you
colloquial
talking about?
means? You're so retarded. Okay,
Yes.
define colloquial for us.
Why am I obligated to do that when you've already
Because
stated
it
I'm not
seems to be the
obligated to
case.
give you a
Look, because
definition?
there's only one clear definition that 99% of people use when they say colloquial. So when I say I'm using the colloquial definition of accidentals and essentials, um, I'm using the normative definitions of these two terms. So you can attack under that.
The normative definitions of accidental
Essential
and
properties. Yep.
essential.
And under Aristotelian metaphysics. They- So you can go ahead and attack it.
I will.
Okay, attack it.
Hello.
Yeah, look, Infinity, can we conclude, bro? I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to continue this.
Why does it get
No, you can't conclude because I'm not trying to
Okay,
conclude.
let's just think up what
Yeah. So
accidental
the
definitions
the
are.
normative the normative definition of accidental would be happening without intent or thorough carelessness and often with unfortunate
Yeah,
results. Is that
no,
what
no,
you're
no,
talking
no.
about?
I said under Aristotelian metaphysics. You know, have you read Aristotelian metaphysics or a book on it?
Under what metaphysics?
Aristotelian. Have you read a book on those two things? Hello.
I'm just looking into what your definitions would be.
Yeah. Okay. I'm asking. Oh my lord, bro. Okay, can you go ahead and attack it then? Yeah,
I said I was looking
I'll
into
just
it. Do you
give you
think
the
that means I've
look.
already
I'll just
done
give
it?
you the definition because it seems to be that you don't know what these things are. Look, so the definition of essential properties are just properties that are necessary for an object's identity. For example, a chair having four legs, right? And then accidental properties are properties that an object happens to have, but that if they lack these properties, doesn't change who they are. So, for example, being a certain height or being a certain weight is like an accidental property of someone, but someone could be taller and shorter and still be the same person because they haven't lost their essential properties. They haven't lost.
Why would that
But
be the
yeah,
case?
you can go ahead and attack that.
Why would that be the case?
That's the colloquial definition of what the word essential and accidental are.
Sure, I'm asking you why the definition would be
What
correct in
definition?
like
Like you're
what
so
it's saying.
retarded. See,
What?
this is why I know like you're retarded. You haven't read anything. So look, definitions
Hold
themselves
on,
don't have
Zeni,
truth
to be
ABCs.
clear, what I'm
Definitions
saying
don't have truth
is
ABCs. You can't see if a
what I'm
definition
saying
is
is
true or correct.
holy shit.
I gave you colloquial definition of
Hold
what
on.
these essential
Obviously,
and accidental
obviously,
properties are. You can go to attack
obviously
them
that
under
can
that
be
reason.
holy fuck. I
Okay, then
understand.
attack the argument.
Yeah, so obviously
Then attack the argument.
I'm going to state
Attack the
what
argument.
I'm answering your earlier question.
Okay,
Shut the fuck up.
attack it.
Yeah, so obviously there would be like differing interpretations or philosophical ideas surrounding the same thing, right? So if I'm asking you why like this specific like philosophical idea would be the case or why it is correct,
If the
you're going to
colloquial
give it,
one.
then why
Oh
should I
my!
have to
I can't
listen
continue
to it?
this, but you're so retarded. But we can conclude. We can conclude.
Yeah, again, I'm not concluding. If you want to
Oh
concede, you
my!
can do that.
This guy is so fucking stupid. It's the colloquial. Are you asking why the definition?
I'm not asking why the
You
definition
verbatim
is what the
said that,
definition
bro.
is. I'm
You said
asking
why is the
why I'm
definition
asking.
correct? It's so
No, no, I
retarded.
did not verbatim say
Infinity,
that. You
please.
said correct.
Can we
I'm asking
conclude,
you.
bro?
I'm asking you why the definition. Holy shit! I already clarified multiple times. I'm asking you why the definition, right? Why the thing that like is being adhered to would be correct. If for example, if you were using Occam's razor and I asked you why Occam's razor is something we should adhere to, that is something you should obviously have to explain.
Are you asking why should we cohere to essential properties and accidental properties to define what a person is?
Yes.
What type of what? What the? Okay. You agree that there are properties that you happen to have, right? Like you happen to have hair when you could have had no hair, right?
Why am I obligated to answer
What?
this?
This guy
Can you not make your
I
explanation or give a
can't,
point
I
without
can't
going down
do
a line
this,
of
bro.
questioning?
This guy, look, you're so fuck.
You shouldn't need
Look,
hold
look,
on, you shouldn't need
look.
me to answer your
Okay,
questions
look, 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 look,
for
look,
you to give an
look, look, look.
explanation.
Obviously, there are properties that people happen to have because possibly they cannot have these properties, right? But there are properties that people need in order to be themselves. Like, for example, let's say that infinity needs a property of let's say like having no hair, right? If infinity has no hair, which is his essential property or his necessary property, then he is not infinity. Infinity has no hair, therefore he has the essential property, making him him. But then let's say that there's an accidental property. Infinity also has clothes, but the clothes aren't needed, right, for infinity to be infinity. Therefore, even if he possibly didn't have clothes, he would still be infinity because he has no hair, which is essential to making him him. That's why we should cohere to accidental and essential properties. We can conclude now.
You're begging the
Okay.
question, by the way.
You can go ahead and prove how that's the beg of the question. And if you want, we can conclude. I think you're just being very disingenuous. This
Again, I
is
don't want to
very
conclude. Yeah,
retarded.
so the reason this you asked me a question. The reason this we're begging the question, right, is I'm asking you why we should adhere to this, and you're again just like stating how it would be the case, not sorry, yeah, how it would be the case if it was true, not why it is the case.
I don't know what you mean by true here. What do you mean by true here?
As if within as in within like the context of your analogy, right? You're like stating that this thing would be essential, this thing would be accidental, and then you're saying, okay, these two things are distinct, and that's your explanation for why we should
Yeah,
adhere to this
prove
idea,
prove
right?
that's my
When
explanation.
the
Yeah, prove
question,
that that's my explanation. Go ahead.
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't need to if
okay,
you go ahead.
then I'll just dismiss it via Hitchens Razor. Thank you very much. We can conclude.
Okay, why would this dismiss it? Why
Yeah.
would it be correct?
Hitchens Razor is a numinal rule or something. I forgot what it's called. And just because you haven't given any evidence, right? I'll just dismiss it without evidence. We
Uh,
can conclude. Please, infinity. You see how retarded this conversation.
Hold on. So do you think applying Cartesian skepticism inherently makes somebody a bad
Yes,
theorist?
yes,
Wait, you
definitely.
said.
You're so fucking retarded, bro. This guy
Wait,
says
he
what?
said. Wait, he said. Why should we cohere to accidental properties and
Yes,
essential?
he verbatim said that, bro. Like,
What the fuck? What is that
Anyway,
even in reference
so
to?
Zenny,
Look, I ain't gonna lie, there's no problem with
Zenny.
not including accidentals a part of the essence, but anyways, I ain't gonna lie, calm, bro.
bro, please let's conclude, bro. Let's conclude. Look, you see how retarded
He's
this
not
is, bro. Please
explaining
let's
why the
conclude.
things. Yo. He's not explaining why the things he's saying we should adhere to should actually be adhered to. He's just stating them again. Like, what are we talking about?
Do you not think I
Bro,
agree with animal
I'm not,
reasoning?
bro. I ain't gonna lie, I'm watching the recording, bro. I have careless immediate judge.
I wasn't here, so
All right.
don't ask me.
Okay, look, Kuro, and we have Penny here. Obviously, you think Penny's good, right? You think Penny's good?
I'm trying to do some crosses, man.
Sure,
So,
Penny
Calm,
can
do you
do it.
think Penny's good? Okay,
Yes.
Penny, if we just like give our conclusions, could you just judge off of that, or could you just judge off what you're
I'm not
hearing?
going to conclude.
He's like Infinity said he wasn't listening because he was watching a recording. He said we could have
I
someone for
was
immediate
listening,
judgment.
but bro, I'm too tired. I'll give judgment off the recording.
Okay, he's gonna listen to Rex. All right, I want immediate judgment because I don't want to continue this retarded debate. I want to conclude because you just
So I'm not
questioned
concluding right
why
now.
we
If
should
you want to
cohere to
concede, you can do
essential and
that.
accidental properties when it comes to determining whether someone is actually themselves, right? This is obviously stupid. Like Kuro was listening, Penny was listening. We can have
Obviously,
both of them just give immediate judgment, bro. Or we can have Infinity give immediate or judgment.
you can conclude right now. I'm not
All
going
right,
to
I'll
do
just give
that.
my conclusions. I've literally just given multiple arguments as to why, or I'm not fighting give arguments. I give analogical reasoning as to why the fetus doesn't end and the new person to come. I gave the example of the toddler. Obviously the toddler doesn't change when they become, or my fault. The toddler doesn't become a new being when the baby is born, right? Or when the baby ages to the age of a toddler, they don't become a new being.